You may well be looking around you in all this spring greenery, wondering if you can spot the star of today's wildflower outing. But if you are, you're probably peering in vain, because the flowers of Dog's Mercury are small and very inconspicuous. The flowers are pollinated by the wind, which means that the bright colours that appeal to the eyes of insects or humans would be entirely superfluous, so that the flowers melt into the background of green. But as you can see, the plants themselves are everywhere. This entire patch is composed of Dog's Mercury, and they spread extensively like this by means of underground rhizomes, particularly in areas of disturbed woodland. Now, Dog's Mercury is generally regarded as an indicator species of ancient woodland elsewhere in Europe. But here in Ireland, the plant is generally regarded as an interloper, an introduced species. For example, this is the 7th edition of Webb's Irish Flora, the standard Irish Flora. This is 1996, where he is describing Dog's Mercury. And he says, the plant is very rare, found in woods and shady places, usually in estates where it may be introduced, but possibly native in 1 or 2 places. But 40 years ago, that possibility changed to certainty, because a single pollen grain of Dog's Mercury was found in a pollen core at Black Lough, which is just a few kilometres from here, dating back to 8,400 years ago, showing us that in those ancient woods of early Ireland, Dog's Mercury was in the company of plants like bluebell, wood anemone and wild garlic. The wood here on the Birr Castle estate is in ecological continuity with what was known as the Great Wood of Birr. When the English antiquary Thomas Dingley visited Birr in 1681, he found that most of the furniture in the castle at the time was made of yew from the Great Wood of Birr, in which, he tells us, there was much plenty of the tree at that time. There are also many remaining areas of oak, and the policy of the Oxmantown Settlement Trust, which now manages the estate woodlands, is to maintain and progressively extend the area under oak. But Dog's Mercury is not confined to these estate woodlands. It occurs widely in much more natural conditions on many eskers in the Midlands. The plants are dioecious. In other words, the plants are either male or female, but they look much the same when they're not in flower. The male flowers are produced in clusters of 4 to 7, each enclosed by 3 sepals. There are no petals. Each male flower has around 10 stamens, each with a slender colourless filament that has a little green blister at the top, on either side of which is a globular yellow anther lobe. These dehisce upwards, and after shedding their pollen, turn indigo blue in colour. The female flowers are clustered together in tighter groups, each flower with 2 sepals, enclosing a globular, 2-chambered ovary covered with glassy-looking papillae, and topped by a pair of horn-like stigmas, whose receptive surface is pleated in order to maximise the chance of intercepting light, wind-borne pollen grains. And they have a few vestigial stamen filaments, showing that originally these flowers were bisexual. And another strange thing, even though the flowers are wind-pollinated, they have extra floral nectaries, hinting that in ancient times the ancestor of Dog's Mercury was insect-pollinated. The name Mercury was given to several plants, believed to have been introduced to mankind by the Roman god Mercury. The dog's part of the name of our plant, Dog's Mercury, is to distinguish it from the closely related and medicinally valuable annual mercury. But Dog's Mercury is extremely poisonous. Here is what one eminent 18th century botanist wrote about the plant. There is not a more fatal plant native to our country than dog's Mercury. Many have been known to die eating it boiled with their food, and probably many also whom we have not heard of. Yet the writers of English herbals say nothing of this. In spite of which, it did have several medicinal uses in the past, but mainly topical uses as ointment and so on. And it does have one genuine virtue. A beautiful indigo-like blue dye was made from the plant.